Hello and welcome to the Unapologetically Imperfect podcast. I am Michelle Lane.
I'm Michelle Moore, and we're two real women who are sharing real life examples of how you can shift into unapologetically embracing your imperfection.
Oh yeah, so get ready for your transformation because this week we have another hot topic coming straight from hot from the presses, from experience, life, yay, humanity. Today we're going to talk about creating internal alignment in business. Specifically, we were talking about in our businesses and how that's relevant right now. And I was sharing prior to recording with Michelle some of the realizations, some of the awarenesses and really the deep down-seated roots that were within me that have started to kind of rise up and be healed as I'm in my own coaching sessions with my coach. And what was really present for me this week was things were going well. And it was so fantastic to feel like, oh, it's going well. What's the difference? Am I making thousands of dollars? No. Am I like creating all these amazing new things? Well, kind of. And the reason that started to happen was because I had really been intentional this last few weeks with this opportunity of shelter in place and being at home. I didn't have to be driving to school. And that's not even the excuse, right? But it gave me time to just be here. And in being here, I set the intention, where can I be more intentional in my business? And when I started doing that, I started looking at the actions I was doing and the actions I wasn't doing. And I got real with myself and like, you're complaining over here that this isn't done or it feels too much or you're overwhelmed. And over here, you're avoiding these things to get done. And so I dove in. But what I also did unconsciously, and maybe consciously, was I blocked the rest of the world out. And so if you're a coach, if you're in a business where you're online in social media, going through all the scrolling, like we all scroll through our phones. My feed is full of inspiration and amazing people, coaches, just humans with loving transformation. So it's not a terrible place to hang out, right? However, it's also full of lots of coaches, lots of people doing other things, lots of businesses thriving, lots of expansion. And when I fall into that trap, I find myself comparing, we wrote it down, I'm trying to make someone else's vision my business. And that sounds like a really logical thing. Don't do that. But yet, it's happening. And I feel it in my body. I feel like this spiral of overwhelm happens. The spiral of comparison starts in. And the very people I love the most, I start to have these angst feelings for, which has nothing to do with them. If you've been in any of this business or personal development long enough, you'll know, big old mirror, flashing red sign, take a look within, what's going on. And I realized in creating this intention and then somehow blocking the rest of it out and really almost avoiding everything else, like doing my work, doing my job, get in, I created a space for myself to listen to me. And again, maybe for you, you're thinking, duh, listen to yourself. Well, I've had a pattern of not trusting. I've had a pattern of doubting. I've had a pattern of all the beautiful things that is really a just deeper fear of I'm not enough. And as I've healed those layers, it's really sexy and sneaky how those other ones come back in with the same story. It's just a way for me to procrastinate getting done what I need to do to be clear on where I'm going. And so what I was sharing with Michelle was this week was really spectacular in all of a sudden, I had this really breakthrough moment with my coach. Tears were coming out. And I remember myself as a child feeling the exact same way to the context to which we were talking, right? And it wasn't even relevant to what I'm even sharing with you now, but it just surged up and out of me. And then I found myself really wanting to write. And I don't know how many times I've heard that in the back of my mind. You need to be writing. You need to be writing. You need to be writing. I mean, Michelle, you and I have known each other almost 3 years, and we've been talking about writing, right? I've had little bits and pieces. I've had little things, but ultimately an excuse. And when I finally heard it this time, I realized this is where everything comes from for me. So when I get in and honor that space to my God gift talent of call, things open up. And so I spent the what if I just spend more time? What if I allow this space? What if I don't worry about all the things in my business and get real clear right now with the direction? And what I found was I already had the direction. I'd like to distract myself with filling in all the different things based off what I'm scrolling and seeing, because I'm not putting on a live event. I'm not doing this. I'm not doing that. That's my judgment. And for some reason, I was able to put on a new set of lenses and see that I have been doing those things, but I've been judging what they look like. And so I got very clear and intentional with what's my very next step. And that next step was, you need to build this, for me, my landing page, which I've been avoiding. But within that, I didn't look at it this time as this thing to do. I looked at it as like, let me take all the notes I've had for this idea and let it flow. And the next thing you know, I have this completed page, which was the missing piece to all the other things I was coming around from the outside trying to get done. And at the same time, I hear myself, throw yourself over the fence in this area you're afraid to do. Put on the webinar, put on the masterclass. And as I sat one day and it just hit me, and I started listening to those little nudges, and I wrote out this whole thing. Oh, this is cool. This is information that will help people. Let me just do that. Let me see what happens next in Zoom. Everybody's on Zoom. How can I register? Oh, cool. The next thing I know, I have a masterclass. I have this whole program written out. I wasn't going to run it, but it's the next logical next step. It's all in alignment to where I am working on the next thing. And then in the midterm, I got this whole invitation in my self-publishing group to start a 30-day writing challenge, and we'll do it together. So there's 90 people committed every day to writing whatever it is that they've agreed on. Mine's 1,000 words. I'm day 3 in. I feel so inspired, and everything has just been trickling in to where my coaching call yesterday was just like, wow, you're in alignment. And I'm like, ooh, this is what that feels like. That thing that I always heard of, that word that I wanted really bad, right? And I thought I was in, but you're not when you're chasing everything else around you. And then I was like, there's the pattern. There's the pattern that's relevant to so many other areas in life. But here it is. Here's the alignment. And what's the difference? And the difference for me is that I was coming from a place of love, coming from a place of like literally focusing my solar plexus and my sacral chakra on what does someone else need in this moment? What's needed? What is my voice? What do I have to offer? And this all expanded into this, basically this business plan that I've been pretending wasn't there. But because I'm in action, I'm starting to create it. So I don't know who needs this message today, but I just feel like it's such an amazing conversation. And I can feel in myself going like this little girl going, this is it. This is how it feels. This is amazing. Oh my gosh, I wouldn't have defined it as this. So we look for alignment like we're looking there for that future destination. And we don't recognize when we're actually in it until we can pull ourselves out and go, that's the flow. That's the flow, the ease, the grace, the love. It's not fighting yourself. It's not comparing yourself to others. It's celebrating others. It's finding the love and compassion and the gratitude.
Yeah.
But it came in this package as, what's the messages coming from within me when I block out all the other noise? And that feels like a really good space.
Yeah.
So I wanted to share that. And yeah, I mean, it's not, I think I was also saying what's beautiful and what I learned was alignment isn't forever. We're all going to flow in and out of it, right? So who's to say I wasn't already doing that? The perception and the perspective of it wasn't the same. So the gift that I got through all this shelter in place was time to at least stop pretending I didn't have time. Because the perception was I do. And the reality was I had 3 hours, I'm not driving. So what am I going to do with it? What will I do with it to better myself, my business, my family, so I don't waste this precious gift? And that was pretty revelating pretty expansive.
Mm. I love that. And I love the idea that alignment isn't something that we go to.
Hmm.
It's something that's in us.
Yeah. Like we don't have to go get it. We don't have to go buy it.
Mm-mm.
We think we do.
I don't think we can. Like it won't be found there.
Right. Which is the quest. Anybody else like the constant, next program, or let's keep learning, or like you have to kind of stumble through everything to get to the next stumble, to get to the next realization, to get to the next action. And we hear this, but then we still get caught in the pattern of not doing.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because it's so I looked up before this started, I looked up what alignment meant, because I believe that there are a lot of words that are out there that we use or we hear and we maybe don't actually have the definition of.
Like catchphrases now.
Right. And it said a position of agreement or alliance. And so I think for a lot of us, who are, and I'll raise my hand, who are, have patterns of people pleasing and patterns of doing a lot of what Michelle was just talking about in terms of external searching for that alignment. I mean, that makes sense because it's
Right.
agreement, right? Like it's agreement, it's alliance with other people. But if we are in alignment, according to this definition, in agreement with other people and simultaneously out of agreement with ourselves, then we're not actually, like, we are not fully in that alliance with that other person. Right. Because we're sacrificing our own self and our own desires to make someone else happy. And I don't say any of that with any fault or blame. I think there's a lot of just programs in our past that we learn for survival, to acquiesce, to keep our jobs. I mean, there's just, to keep the peace. There are things that we start doing and patterns of behavior that we develop at a very, very early age where we just learn that our needs are less important, right? Or just at the bottom of the list. And eventually, since the to-do list, right, is never done, we don't ever get to us. So we stop asking these questions, and you can't be aligned with something that's not authentic to who you are. And I think what I really, there were a couple things that I wrote down when you were talking. I love the question of where can I be intentional? Michelle, I think that's such a really powerful question. And when you said, trying to fit their vision into my business, I wrote down, like, your vision can't. It literally cannot fit into their business, just like their business can't fit into your vision. So we have to be willing to explore what that is for ourselves, use the inspiration from other people, get inspired by what we see, use that as a launching point. Because the other thing that you said that I really want to drive home is that the actions that you took are what brought the clarity. You said getting done to get clear. So the more that you do, so I might hear something or see something that Michelle's doing online, get inspired by that to take action in my own business. But then along that path, I might get clarity that she went to the left, but I want to go to the right. And I want to take this thing and do it in this way. But the only way that I could have learned that, uncovered that, is by the action. And I thought that was so profound. I really wanted to speak to that, because the comparison, what we see out there, and there's so much stuff that's out there, there's nothing wrong with it if we use it to inspire us. But most of the time when we are comparing, it's because, at least I'll speak for me, when I'm comparing, it's because I feel shitty about what I'm not doing in my own life or business. So then I look at everybody else and what they're doing and compare it to what I'm not doing, which makes me feel even worse.
So so I love that so much, because what comes like jumping out is, how can we help others, right? How can we help whoever's listening right now recognize that? And the first thing that went to my head was my mind chatter, the spiral of what is it that I'm telling myself I'm not enough in? Mm-hmm. What is it that I'm upset about that someone else did that? What is it? And honestly, guys, if you're finding something somebody's doing, it's in you to do it. So you can be pretending that you're not enough to do it, or that you don't want to step on their toes because they just did something similar. It will never be the same thing. You're not me. I'm not you. We're all individual, different. We all have our flavor. And it took me forever to figure that out, because I didn't want to rock the boat. I didn't want to hurt your feelings. I didn't want to be the bitch that stole the idea. And I forgot that's also called inspiration. Mm-hmm. Right? It's coming from my experience, my voice, my talents, my viewpoint. It can't ever be the same thing.
No.
So we pretend. So asking yourself what you want and get really clear on that. Mm-hmm. I had a block there. It required coaching. It required an individual coaching, group coaching to help me get past it, because I didn't think I could dream anymore, because for that same reason you said, I just got out of practice and I didn't feel it was important for me to dream.
Yeah.
Which is a really big issue when you're building a business. And the more I align with those passions and purposes, the more the money flows in, the more the clients come, because I'm this beacon of, here's what I have for you to learn. Here's what I've learned. Here's where I am centered within me. And people pick up on that. I don't have to beg. I don't have to, whoa, sorry about that. I don't have to beg or promise or beg. Hello. Oh, please.
It's time. It's time.
It's time. The dogs are barking. Let's just embrace this imperfection for just a moment.
I love that shit, girl, because the reality is it's not authentic. So no one's going to be attracted to anything that's not authentic to you.
Right. Hang on. Keep talking.
Yeah. I mean, ultimately that's the thing. Like, they're not going to be attracted to anything that's inauthentic to you, even though they won't necessarily be able to put their finger on it, but people feel that. And I'm with you on the ideas. Like I so was like, oh, that's not my original thought. That's not my original idea. There's no original ideas. And I heard at one point, my coach say that, there are so many different versions of the Star Spangled Banner. And that's amazing. It's a very powerful, powerful song. And there are so many different people who sing it in so many different ways.
I know.
And every version is powerful.
Michelle, how many dance moves are there?
I don't even know.
Like the basics. There's just like handfuls.
Yeah. And then everything else is interpretation.
Yes. Someone else's interpretation, someone else's version, someone else's twist, someone else just doing it that looks different from somebody else. That was another thing we learned in dance, was it's not all original anyway. We're all pulling, taken from different eras, different genres, and we're putting our twist on it, because you can't help but not to. And that's powerful.
That makes it authentic to you, which is what makes it in alignment with you.
Right.
Is your twist.
The alignment comes from you fully owning who you are, your energy, what you bring to the table, and your twist on how you wanted to get it done. So the first question is not only what do we want, but the other one is how will it look, right? And you're only going to know the how by getting into action, because you don't know, you can't pre-decide, you can't predetermine the outcome. That's future. You have to be in this moment, being in action. I not only wrote, I just literally wrote all this out, and I realized I could do it. And it was going to be as simple as using Zoom that has a registration area and go.
Mm.
And so all of this fear for the last few years of showing up that way, it was the same thing calling me, this is your next step. This is your next step.
I like that.
And now I'm so excited about it. I'm so excited about it. You can't mess it up, guys. Like, you just can't. So.
No, and that fear is definitely something to dive into inside of another.
So if you feel that freeze, that like literally in your body, I cannot move forward, there's something to heal in there. And that's where a coach can seriously help. And I wouldn't have known that 5 years ago. And I've never been more grateful in my entire life for being where I'm at in this moment, from discovering that.
That's a beautiful thing to say.
It's true.
So for anybody that's a little bit earlier on in the process, two things that I did a few years ago that were really profound for me is to make a list of what I liked and a list of what I didn't like. Because sometimes it is helpful in discovering what you want to know what you don't want. And the reason that I recommend like is because if you're early on in your process, it might not feel safe, or you might not feel like you have permission to want something, to have those desires. So like the kind of first level for me was, what is it that I like? And I just wrote out random things. Like I like lattes. I like almond milk. I like bananas. I love chocolate chip cookies, right? I said love there, right? Did you hear that? I love cookies. I like potato chips. I like one-on-one conversations. I like dry martinis. Like I just wrote there was nothing off limit. I like comfortable clothes. So I went through that process, and then I was like, what do I not actually like? And I just created, I did it in my downtime. I was still waiting tables at the time. I did it at my downtime at work. Something would happen and I was like, oh, I don't like that. I'm like, oh, let me put that on the list. Because then I started to be able to create a life that was more intentionally aligned with the things that I liked, and the things that I didn't like, I was able to spend less time, create boundaries around those things, delegate those things out. So I wasn't spending time and energy on the things that I didn't like. And then that allowed me to say, what is it that I want from there? And what is it that I don't want to feel, to experience? That process is what really helped lead me into being able to now be in a life and living in a life that feels more aligned, which attracts business and conversation that feel more aligned for you. So wherever you're at in your process, there are questions that you can ask to help take you to that very next level.
And that's the thing. And this has come up a couple of times. I haven't expressed it, but it's like, that's the difference between taking the self-help book or the course or anything else that inspires you to learn more about you and your behaviors. The difference in the action, let me go back. The difference in how that applies to your life and creates your reality is taking the action on the steps. And if you're anything like me, and originally when oh, that's cool, I'll get back to that. And so the very same thing I was avoiding was the definite thing I needed. And there's no lack of questions that we can ask ourselves to get clear. It's our ability and willingness to dive in, to do the work, and then see where we are at that point. Because if we're not even willing to start on that surface level, then I would say definitely hire a coach to help you get there. But even if you get through that level and you still feel stuck, there's something else going on. And it's okay to ask for the help. My gosh, we go through life thinking we have to do everything alone. And we learn so much more by asking and finding out about ourselves in a way that we can't see when our blinders are on. So
yeah, I'm gonna write that down, because that's another episode, and we're not.
Yeah, girl, we need to like keep
for 5 hours.
I like that. You know, and again, we're done. We're setting ourselves timers today because we have limited space and time, but we're still making things happen. I just want to end with saying no information becomes a transformation without action. And we can be informed and we can be aware all the day long. And unless we're willing to take the action to make the change that makes our reality different towards what we want more of, you'll stay stuck. there's no transformation in that. You have to be in action, make the mistakes, stumble through, learn something from it, gain the results. Is that the outcome you want? If not, what do I need to do differently? And be willing to fail with inspiration.
I like the way you said that.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's necessary. Yeah. And I think the other thing that's really important in closing is what you said early on, which is it's not a state to achieve to be in for forever. I think there's a lot of power when we are fully centered. That's a word that I use synonymous with alignment. Maybe you don't, but for me, it's centered.
Yeah, I like that.
But what's really powerful for me is when I'm off center, because that lets me know the distinction, right, between, oh, this thing is not in alignment, or I'm not in alignment inside of this thing. So how can I come back? So if you feel that kind of back and forth, that's normal. There's nothing, I have not yet gotten to the, like divine, always 24/7, 365 in every area of my life and business.
Yeah.
I don't think it does either, but I think it's important because there are a lot of, if it's me, I hear a lot of talk about, not about the fact that it's in and out, so then I was in judgment if I was in and out. So if you feel those moments, capture them, notice them. What are you doing? Who are you with? What are the conversations that you're having? Because remember, like Michelle said earlier, it's in you, not out there. It's in you. So notice it. If you feel that energy, you feel that alignment, that's a moment to kind of freeze frame, like capture it. Who's around? What are you talking about? What are you doing? What were the contributing factors? And then you can play with testing that.
Yeah, I totally agree. And my whole assignment this last week, which brought this up, which is the beautiful piece, is being willing to own my vision. Accepting that I'm on my way to this vision. I have permission to own it. There's still a piece back there that was like, no, that's not mine. And I'm like, okay, that's all I have to do this week, coming from a place of love. We are focusing into the chakras and where that's blocked. And, you know, there's a part of me that's like, really? That's it? But when I would do the work, and every moment I could think of that vision, every moment, that's the piece that was missing. I would plan it out, look at it. I wasn't allowing myself the visualizing part of the meditation of seeing it. All to realize I've had it all along. I was just pretending it wasn't what it was.
Yeah.
Because I went back through the steps. I got clear. I wrote it down, and lo and behold, there it is. And look how much further along the progress was.
I love that.
So yeah, it's that simple. It's just not always easy.
Amen. Amen.
All right, girl. Thank you for being here for another episode. Thank you guys for tuning in. Let us know how this resonates with you. Please subscribe so you don't miss any of this amazing goodness coming to you from the human experience, not necessarily just from us. It's just from the realization that we are human, and here's where we can embrace it, right? I'd like to continue this conversation. I think this is worthy of a couple episodes of diving into some of those elements that we were talking about. So I look forward to that. And yeah, till next week.
That sounds like a plan. Thank you, Michelle, for who you are and how you show up. And thank you all for watching. So be well and take care, and we'll talk to you soon.
See you later.
Bye.